Start spreading the news. You're leaving today. I wanna be a part of it. New York, New York. More breaking news out of New York. It's been a crazy couple weeks for New York. You had the Jets blowing it up last week, and you got the New York Giants now firing head coach Brian Daboll. Sorry about the song. I just love to watch this city fail. It's enjoyable as a Chicagoan. I know it's hilarious that I'm saying this right now as I'm wearing a New York Yankees hat, but it's the Peanuts collab. It's a cool hat, cool logo. But I love to watch this city fail. Bing bong. It's always so fun and enjoyable. But let's break this down. Talk about what's next for the New York Giants. What's to come. What to make of the Jackson Dart situation. And we'll start off by saying this. I felt like the writing was on the wall with this one after this last season. I didn't mind them running it back a little, I guess a little bit. I think Brian Daboll is a good coach. I think he's a good offensive mind. I think what he did and how he was able to get the most out of Dart very early into his career in only first 6.5 games from Dart, I think he did a phenomenal job. I think Dart really looks the part. There's a lot to build off going into his second year. The issue is, you're 2-8. You found yourself with top 6 picks in the last 2 drafts after coming off of a season where you were a wild card team. I think that Joe Shane definitely needs to go. I think he's a stupid ass. The general manager maybe should have been fired first and let kind of similar to what the Dolphins did with firing Chris Greer and keeping Mike McDaniel, seeing if the new guy wants to come in and maybe stay tied to McDaniel. No, I think that's what probably should have been done in this situation. But regardless, you're 2-8. Joe Shane needs to go next. You got Mike Kafka, who has been a guy circling head coaching interviews for a while now, filling in as the interim head coach. So will be interesting to see how these final few games for the New York Giants play out with Kafka as the head coach. Regardless, I think it's probably best everybody just wipe their hands in the situation, both the Giants and Brian Daboll cutting ties, cutting clean. And it is unfortunate because now you have a first-round pick quarterback who is going to be tied to a brand new head coach who didn't draft him. I think Dart has shown definitely enough juice where it's going to be intriguing for a head coach to come in and see what they can get out of Dart as well. But regardless, that's just not how you want a football team to be built. I'm a Bears fan, okay? I've seen it time and time again. Trubisky, first year, goodbye. New head coach comes in. Fields, first year, goodbye. New head coach comes in. Caleb Williams, first year, goodbye. New head coach comes in. It's not great. It's not great. Let's talk about direction for Brian Daboll first before we dive into the New York Giants. Like I said before, I think this is a guy who is a very bright offensive mind. I think that this is a guy who's going to find himself with another team immediately, probably going to be one of the top tier offensive coordinator candidates this offseason for sure. Like, I would love to maybe see him in Tennessee in some way, shape, or form, maybe as a quarterback coach or an offensive coordinator, see what he can get out of Cam Ward. We've seen him get the best out of Josh Allen. We've seen him turn Josh Allen into what he is today. We've seen him get a lot out of Daniel Jones, more than I was expecting. Shane Steichen's doing a very good job up there, but it's year 6 for Daniel Jones. By that point, you're really in motion. Regardless of all of that, though, he still did get a decent amount of juice out of Daniel Jones, but he couldn't stay healthy. Never worked out. Dart comes in, 6.5 games. He has him playing like a second-year player. Dart looked really impressive as a rookie. So I think that there's a lot of juice and a lot of meat still left on the bone for Brian Daboll. I won't be surprised if this is a guy who is a head coach in 5 years. I think there's a lot that he needs to work out. I think his timeline is almost identical to Matt Nagy because Brian Daboll reports coming out, saying like he wasn't the easiest guy to work with. He's an arrogant asshole. And I kind of started to feel that way about Matt Nagy towards the end of his tenure as head coach of the Chicago Bears. And it's similar. If you look at their timelines, really, like it is very, very, very similar. He comes into a situation, he's taking over for a quarterback he did not draft. But year 1, they have success. They go to the postseason. Following years after that, not so much success. They both get to draft their quarterback, and they both get canned because they're not succeeding enough. Project QBs, Justin Fields. Daboll was able to get exponentially more out of Jackson Dart than Matt Nagy was ever able to get out of Justin Fields. But you see the similarities of what I'm talking about, right? Their paths are kind of similar, both kind of arrogant assholes. I think Matt Nagy could be up for a head coaching job in the next season or two, get another swing at it. But I think Daboll needs to find himself in a situation where he is play calling, offensive coordinator, quarterback coach in some capacity, because I do think he is a bright offensive mind. I think he's very good in developing quarterbacks. Like I think that it's going to come to show that this guy can get your quarterback over the hump. He's got a track record of proving that. I think Tennessee would be a beautiful place for him to go. If he could pair with Brian Flores, that'd be very interesting. Brian Flores going somewhere, setting the tone, finally getting another head coaching job paired with Daboll. That could be a beautiful pairing. Now, let's talk Giants. Now, short list off of my head. I don't know if you can really put it on a short list, because like I think off the top of my head, like who are some prime candidates? Like Joe Brady would be one of them, but do you really want to find yourself in a situation where you're hiring Joe Brady, the offensive coordinator for the Buffalo Bills, the exact same thing that you just did with Brian Daboll? Because, you know, Dart and Allen do have their similarities. There's a reason that he selected Dart. He saw a lot of what he saw in Josh Allen. And I think that, you know, Dart's kind of showed that. Big body, can run the field. He's got a big arm. I think there's a lot of similarities in their play, and Dart was showing a lot in his rookie year. So you think about like, okay, well, who knows how to coach that Josh Allen type very well? And you think about Joe Brady, you know, like right on the money. There's a guy who's been a head coaching candidate now for a couple seasons. His track record dates all the way back to LSU, and Drew Brees before that. He's been with Sean Payton. So he's got some serious juice who could potentially bring something here. I know the Bills, you know, offense hasn't looked as clean as it did just last season. I'm talking about Joe Brady as an offensive coordinator or a head coaching candidate just after they only scored like 12 points against the Miami Dolphins. But you get what I'm saying. Like Joe Brady's on my short list. Mike McCarthy is an option. Mike McCarthy, you know, has a very good track record of getting quarterbacks on the right track, and especially in a high volume passing offense. Like you want Dart to develop as a passer maybe a little bit better. Mike McCarthy could be a very good option, but it'd be his third go at it. Like, do you believe that's going to be a guy to get you over the top? So the Giants are going to have to ask a lot of questions on the inside. I just pray that Joe Schoen gets the boot soon, because I think he's a stupid ass. So I think he needs to go. I think this needs to be a full clean situation with somebody who would be excited and intrigued to come in, step in, and coach Jackson Dart. I'm trying to think of some other head coaching candidates off the top of my head, but I'm kind of drawing blanks at the moment. I know Flores is probably going to be one of the top candidates this offseason in general, just because of, you know, Minnesota has been a good defense now consistently 4 years. He's got the track record. The situation with Miami and how it ended was shaky, because he was like, I believe 500 or maybe a little bit above 500 as a head coach there. So regardless who they go with, they have to make sure it's right and it's good for Jackson Dart, because I made a video earlier this year about them rolling with Jackson Dart and naming Jackson Dart the starter in New York. And the whole kind of thing was he's going to go one of two ways. Dart's either going to ball and they get to potentially keep their jobs, or he's going to suck and they get fired. And now you have to kind of convince somebody to step into the role and progress him. But this is a different situation. Dart has looked like he's got some serious juice. The team's just been losing, blowing games in the fourth quarter, and now they're 2-8 and Daboll gets fired. So it's a little bit easier of a situation. You know, you're coming into a situation where you know this guy's got the juice, but you need to be able to get him to the sauce. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out for the New York Giants. Thank you guys so much for tuning into another video. Talk to you guys soon. Peace.